Hi everyone, my name is Saryu Chitardi and I'm currently attending Westwood High School in Texas. And my main focus was on the genetic aspect of dementia. Dementia is defined as the overall cognitive decline of an individual, and dementia can completely change a person's life. They can no longer communicate their feelings, talk to the people around them, and it's just a really devastating disease to have. There's many types of dementia, some of which you've probably heard of, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, but there's other ones such as frontotemporal dementia and dementia with Lewy bodies that are heavily influenced by the genetic factors involved. And I really wanted to focus on Alzheimer's, frontotemporal dementia, and dementia with Lewy bodies because they have a lot of genetic factors that should be noted. So my research question was, how do genetic factors impact the overall risk of dementia? And I thought that this was could you go back? I thought that this was an important topic to understand the genetic aspect of dementia because in today's world, as our lifespans are increasing, so are the global rates of dementia. So understanding its etiology is really important. So for literature review, one of the current research suggests that the aggregation of alpha-synuclein is coded for by the SNCA gene, and mutations with this gene is one of the biggest factors in Lewy body dementia. But also, PSEN1 and APP gene mutations have been linked to higher levels of amyloid beta peptide levels, and high levels of amyloid beta peptides is considered one of the pathological hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease as well as other forms of dementia. So I wanted to investigate what was the connection between those mutations and various forms of dementia risk. But potentially modifiable factors make up to 40% of dementia risk. So while dementia is heavily influenced by your genetics, there are factors that you can change to help reduce your risk. And these include things like your cardiovascular health, your diet, exercise, whether or not you consume alcohol, tobacco consumption, and there's just a lot in regards to that as well. And an ongoing debate that I also briefly mentioned in my article was whether Alzheimer's disease causes neuroinflammation or whether neuroinflammation causes Alzheimer's disease. And this is noteworthy because understanding how exactly the mechanisms of Alzheimer's work would help us in coming up with more effective treatments and cures. My methodology, I conducted a secondary literature review primarily based on sources from the National Center of Biotechnology Information and the National Institute of Health. I also analyzed multiple ongoing clinical trials and recently conducted trials. For results, I found that key factors outside of genetics that can impact your risk of dementia include cardiometabolic multimorbidity, which sounds like a mouthful, but it really just refers to having multiple diseases that impact your cardiovascular health and your metabolism. So this may involve things like having a heart attack recently, that comes into that. And depression also plays a role because it alters your cognitive function, and it's even been linked to changing your brain's physiology. But lifestyle choices also play a major role, as was found in the Framingham Heart Study, which proved that changes to your lifestyle and changes to your cardiovascular health can decrease your risk of dementia by up to 59%. So making sure that your cardiovascular health is good is a major thing in dementia. And while the two body systems may seem unrelated, cardiovascular health, it monitors the amount of blood flow to your brain, and it can decide whether or not there's ischemia or loss of oxygen to your brain, and this can cause dementia because if the brain isn't getting enough oxygen, its neurons begin to die. And a gene that was mainly linked to both amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and frontotemporal dementia was C9ORF72 gene. And expression of this gene has been linked to issues with motor neuron function and disruption of endocytosis within the brain. So that's why it leads to the more issues with like your muscles and like you lose control of your limbs. And then APP, PSEN1, and PSEN2 were all genes that have been linked to variability in amyloid deposits within your brain. And understanding these factors play a role in Alzheimer's disease primarily. PSEN2 primarily plays a role in it can cause protein folding, which is a major part of Alzheimer's disease. TREM2 is linked to issues in synapse firing and the signals in your brain are just not working properly on a fundamental level. But it also causes issues with phagocytosis. The APOE4 allele is commonly linked to an overall accelerated cognitive decline, whether that be Alzheimer's or dementia with Lewy bodies, but it's mainly linked with Alzheimer's disease as it can increase your risk for Alzheimer's by almost twofold, which is very significant. The LRRK2 gene has been linked with basically the protein products in your brain, they can't be formed correctly, so that impedes cognitive function. SNCA and GBA are both linked to aggregation of alpha-synuclein because SNCA gene triplication causes excitatory neurons to not work as they should, while GBA causes misfolded alpha-synucleoid. In regards to clinical trials, many of these genes are being investigated to see how exactly they cause dementia. And for example, they found that PSEN1 and APP mutations cause an increase in amyloid beta peptide levels, which is a big deal because it shows us why exactly it causes Alzheimer's. And other studies have also been conducted, which are worth noting. In conclusion, genetic risk plays a major role in dementia risk, but other factors, as I mentioned, also play a role in susceptibility. While there's so much knowledge out there about genetic risk, my paper discusses the genes disease by disease, and it outlines a wide variety of genetic variants. It also discusses the importance of genetic testing and genetic counseling if you suspect that maybe dementia is running in your family. And genetic testing and counseling can, especially with new techniques in medicine, it can help you be aware of maybe you might get dementia and take preventative actions. I was interested in how exactly the APOE allele increases amyloid beta aggregation and how we can combat this change. If I was given the chance to do further research, I probably would do something regarding that because I could not find much information regarding that. For limitations, I used primarily digital sources and I wanted to see how, because that was, most convenient, but perhaps if I had used different sources such as books, that might have changed things. And obviously when there's so much information about a topic, I could not have covered everything regarding it. So certain things might not have been mentioned, but despite being of equal importance. I would like to thank Gifted Gabbers so much for this amazing opportunity because I have learned so much about dementia and neuroscience in general. This experience has really been broadening my horizons. I would love to thank Dr. Parajuli and Professor Virgil. Professor Virgil, he made sure that the structure of my writing was appropriate. He taught me how to do citations and made sure I avoided minor mistakes. Dr. Parajuli made sure that my scientific content made sense. He taught me a lot regarding dementia and genes. His comments on my writing are invaluable because they enhanced it so much. So thank you so much.
Awesome, Sarayu. The depth at which you've gone in to do research, it's pretty amazing. Excellent. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. Dr. Prahalad, question for Sarayu.
Sayu, so you already answered the questions that I was asking others about what would you do. So I have to ask you, what alternative treatments would you propose for dementia or some preventative measures? Did you find any in the research?
There are current drugs that are being made to target like specifically amyloid beta aggregation, and they are promising somewhat, but of course there's always room for improvement. I think precision medicine techniques would also be of use in the field.
Okay, thank you. Great job.
Yeah, a big round of applause to Sarayu. Amazing.